Hello and welcome again to the Legion Alpha. Fucking hell. You get so used to saying certain words sometimes, but what I of course mean is the Battle for Azeroth Alpha. You don't see no great big Barusasauruses and interesting troll architecture over in Legion, do you? I don't believe you see any trolls whatsoever, in fact, except for your player characters. Here we are on the Paladin, in the Retribution spec. Good old reliable Ret Paladins doing what Ret Paladins do, putting all that holy stuff everywhere, yellow light spinning around as they do all their damage and healing, and doing it quite well in BFA so far, I find. So if we head on over to my favourite area, of course, the target dummies, where everyone's always beating up on this guy, over here, we can start talking about things a little bit. So, Paladins, you have changes. Good changes in my opinion. Some people don't like some of the changes, but I can't see how it's even close to a problem. Change number one that is affecting both the way you play and your mastery a little bit is the Judgment. Okay, so Judgment previously used to open up a Colossus Smash window. There's no better way of putting it. Like, I think Warriors were the first one to have that sort of effect. Anyway, you get the Colossus Smash window with Judgment. Not anymore. Not anymore. Your mastery is just straight up increases your holy damage. Holy damage is just straight up better. So make what you will of that. It's not an interesting mastery by any means when it's just plus damage, but plus damage is always a strong thing. So, okay. Speaking of the Judgment then, so how has Judgment changed? Well, it costs nothing. It has a shortish cooldown. It in fact generates one holy power, and causes your next holy damage spender to do 25% increased holy damage. So the buff sort of thing is still there, however it is only for the first spender used. Blader's Justice, Crusader Strike, Templar's Verdict and Divine Storm, Rebuke, and all of your utility things. All of this stuff is exactly the same. Very little changes across the board there. Most of the changes are in the talents, so let's get to it. Zeal causes your next 3 auto attacks to attack 50% faster and deal holy damage. This used to make Crusader Strike cleave and do a bit more damage than the standard Crusader Strike. Completely different now. And honestly, not that great in my opinion. Righteous Verdict, so it used to have Final Verdict, which increased Templar's Verdict damage by 20% and Divine Storm by 10. Now you've got Righteous Verdict, which just does Templar's Verdict, and it's for less, so arguably a much worse trade-off. Execution Sentence, however, that used to be the hammer that fell from the sky, and then did some damage, most of the time after the mob had died. Now it's an instant hammer. Well, actually, I don't know if it even is a hammer, but whatever it is, it does instant damage slightly more than Templar's Verdict. On a 30-second cooldown costing 3 holy power, and for the next 12 seconds, holy damage is gone up by 20%. So although the Judgment window thing is gone, you can get a semblance of it back with Execution Sentence, and compared to the other two choices in this row, I say Execution Sentence is probably the stronger, but testing required, you know? Down to the next row. Fires of Justice, exactly the same. Blade of Wrath, exactly the same, although it has moved in the talent tree to this point. Then, Hammer of Wrath. Back in the day, when a lot of classes had finishers that could be used at low health thresholds, Paladin had Hammer of Wrath, and now they have it again, albeit as a talent, and a fairly weak one at that. But it does generate 1 holy power on a fairly low cooldown, and it's not just an execution sort of thing. You can use it at low health threshold of 20% health, or during Avenging Wrath. So you can use this ability more than you otherwise would think. A lot of people want this to be more like it used to be, when it actually felt like a finisher, but it's alpha, they might change the numbers, but currently it's not exactly in a terrible spot, because everything else here is RNG based on this, or just a bit meh. with a bit more RNG involved. This row is exactly the same for the most part, nothing worth mentioning. Level 60, however, this is one of the old legendaries, I'm sure of it. I can't confirm, but hitting something with Holy Power Spenders and getting this like stacking up to 15 times buff for Judgment, I'm sure it used to be a legendary, now it's a talent. Consecration, kind of the same as it used to be, pretty decent damage, 20 second cooldown, although it now generates Holy Power, so not too bad for AoE. And Wake of Ashes, your old artifact ability, is now a talent. Not everybody has the luxury of keeping their old artifact talents in the form of the new talent system. They're just straight up gone. Paladins, however, you still have your lovely old Wake of Ashes. I think on Legion it's a 30-second cooldown, I could be mistaken, but the version we are seeing here is 45-second cooldowns. It does more damage than any other ability I've seen so far, in the Paladin arsenal at least, and it gives you the movement speed, it messes up demons and undeads, and it generates the 5 holy power. So this is a great ability, but the problem is a lot of people are already used to having it, so will be forced to feel like they're spec into it just because they want it back. But as it stands, I think it's probably the stronger in this row anyway, so all good there. You've still got your Eye for an Eye, you've still got Cavalier. The new one is reducing the cooldown of your Divine Shield, Shield of Vengeance and Lay on Hands by 30%. So your personal shields and your helpful things are going to be coming off cooldown faster. But you'll probably want Cavalier because, you know, you want your mobility, let's be honest. Level 90 is all about healing yourself or others. Selfless healer. Every time you cast your Judgment, your next flash of light is faster. And it can eventually become instant on 3 stacks. It's healing on others, not yourself, on others is also increased. So if you ever need to heal yourself with Flash of Light and you do have stacks of this, you will be able to cast faster, but you won't get any more bonus healing. Justicar's Vengeance. The reason I have this is because it's a good self-heal. It's an instant, it does damage as well, and it does more damage when you're against stunned things, so you can get a decent amount of self-sustain without sacrificing too much in the way of damage to get it. Word of Glory. 3 holy power, 1 minute recharge, 2 charges, heals up to 4 targets within 30 yards. So pretty good in 5-mans, but would it be worth it over the others? Hard to say. You're not the healer as a Retribution Paladin, but you do have healing options here that can help your party if you so choose. Divine Purpose, exactly the same. Crusade, almost exactly the same. It's exactly the same percentage scaling and everything, but it now goes to 10 stacks instead of 15, so it's not quite as strong. And finally, Inquisition. 8% damage and haste buff, scaling on duration only, not the actual stacking. You don't like get 8 plus 8 plus 8 per holy power. It's only the duration that is increased, and it goes 15 seconds per holy power consumed. So there's not really much in the way of interactions or complexity with the Paladin. You still spam your abilities out, as you might expect, but you've got a couple of extra things to track. You know, you've got to make sure that you use your most powerful holy power spender after you use your judgments, and you have to make sure you make a good use of Hammer of Wrath to get more holy power quicker, to get more spenders off, and stuff like that. So let's go beat up the target dummy. So let's just open up with it, Wake of Ashes straight away, and we'll go into our Judgment, then Execution sentence, because actually we'll use Inquisition first quickly, and then just get some more holy power. So the reason that you want to use Judgment, then Execution sentence, is because Execution sentence, if you so choose to take it, is, like I said earlier, your hardest hitting ability, so you might as well use the Judgment buff on that one. So let's go with that. Judgment, get that hammer down there, and then just start spending holy power and generating holy power, while keeping a close eye on just making sure that your Inquisition buff never drops. And it feels quite a lot like Paladin always has. But, like I say, with a few extra little things, so it's nice just to be able to have those few extra little things to keep track of. Let's pop wings. Okay, and now we can use Hammer of Wrath, so let's start using Hammer of Wrath. Because why wouldn't you use Hammer of Wrath? It's now something you can use during wings and only during wings. So we want to make sure we make full use of that. Go up to 5 and then get all our other shit out. So we don't want to use Hammer of Wrath during that little Judgment buff because it's only for 1584. That's because Inquisition made it better than it was earlier. You want to use your Templar's Verdict because it just simply hits harder, so try not to overlap those two things with the Judgment. Always make sure that whenever you press Judgment, you try to follow it up with a Execution Sentence or a Templar's Verdict. Just like that. And then you get the buff, and we're about to lose Inquisition. We've only got one Holy Power, but we can get 15 seconds out of that, and that's just fine. Because then we can refresh it to a longer duration later down the line. So Paladins play much like the same, like I keep telling myself and others, a lot like they always have. Just keep trying to make the most of the little nuances with Judgments and Execution Sentence. I actually prefer to not take Hammer of Wrath. I actually prefer Blade of Wrath because it just smoothens out your rotation a lot. And let's not obviously forget that, you know, it does an absolute metric shit ton of damage. The only reason that this isn't your top damaging ability is because it's physical and armor reduces it. Everything else that's Holy Power based is a lot stronger. So yeah, this is Paladin doing what Paladin does best. Pretty simple, but ultimately quite rewarding. It's not like a one-button spec, even though it is quite a simple spec. It's not one button, you've always got something to press, and you've got an AoE option in Divine Storm should you ever choose to take it. So you can look over here and get some Divine Storms going. And yeah, I mean, what's not to like? I enjoy it. I do enjoy this. I just want to see if the Execution Sentence does... nope. Just a little personal thing I was testing there. But yeah, Retribution Paladin. I like it. What can I say? It's not everyone's cup of tea, but I think it's better than it is in Legion. And I enjoy it quite a lot. I read on some forums that a lot of people hate Inquisition, but the way I see it is it's a nice, cheap, easy way to get some extra damage and haste, and compared to Crusade not being as strong and Divine Purpose being exactly the same, so it's not exactly interesting. I think it's a pretty nice trade-off. So, Retribution Paladin people, tell me what you think. I, for one, am a fan. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.